Okay, now let's talk about the adrenal glands. So when we talk about adrenal glands, we really are talking about two different organs functionally, but structurally fused together. Because adrenal glands have two parts. They have cortex and medulla. And the way it looks like is that you have the cortex on the outside. Inside you have that medulla. And inside medulla, you are producing different hormones than outside in the cortex. And not only that, the medulla and the cortex are developmentally of different origin. That's why you are producing different hormones. And not also different hormones, like functionally, also structurally. In the cortex, you are producing steroid hormones, while in the medulla, you are producing catecholamines like adrenaline, noradrenaline, and dopamine. So first, we're going to be talking about cortex. And in cortex, you are producing the steroid hormones. Steroid hormones are distinct from the peptide hormones in that they are, because they are hydrophobic, they can pass through the membranes, and so the receptors are not on the membrane but inside the cell, and often actually inside the nucleus itself. In the context, you are producing three groups of steroid hormones. First group would be mineralocorticoids, and an example of mineralocorticoid, the most important, would be aldosterone. And as you might remember, aldosterone is produced in the adrenal cortex because of stimulation by angiotensin. And then aldosterone goes, amongst other places, into the kidney, where it acts in this convoluted tubule or collecting duct, and it increases the resorption of sodium and water, and it increases the potassium or proton excretion into these tubules and therefore into the urine. And so the end effect of the aldosterone is that you're going to have more sodium and more water in your body. However, you're going to lose some potassium and some protons. So apart from mineral balance, how it's written in the name, you also get some acid-base balance from the action of aldosterone. And after mineralocorticoids, you get glucocorticoids. The most notable one is cortisol. Cortisol has many functions. I don't think it's reasonable to study all of those yet for your entrance exam. However, I would remember that cortisol is so-called stress hormone. And what it means is that when your body is under some sort of stress, either psychological or physical, cortisol gets released. So if you undergo surgery, if you have some illness, if you run a marathon, cortisol will get released, and it has many functions. However, the second most important, or the most important for entrance exams, would be that cortisol is a strong immunosuppressant. What that means is that high levels of cortisol will inhibit your white blood cells from doing their thing and make you more susceptible to infection. Cortisol also stimulates lipolysis, proteolysis, plays a role in maintaining blood levels of glucose. That's why you have the glucose in the name. And then you have like that's other functions that you definitely don't need to know. And the last group of hormones produced in the adrenal cortex would be androgens. And you know that androgens are the male sex hormones. And apart from testosterone, would be androstenedione, DHEA, etc. But again, most important, testosterone. A thing to remember, in females, the major source of androgens is the adrenal cortex and the ovaries, of course. And yes, ovaries mostly produce estrogens and progesterone or progestins, of course. However, as a side effect, you also get some testosterone. Okay, so this is what happens in the cortex, or what gets produced in the cortex. Mineralocorticoids, aldosterone, glucocorticoids, cortisol, and androgens. Right? In females, the androgens, for example, contribute to hair, to body hair. Now, what gets produced in the medulla? In medulla, you are producing catecholamines, sorry. And the three major catecholamines are epinephrine, norepinephrine, and dopamine. Now these hormones, you might also know them as neurotransmitters because they are found at the synapse and they initiate the flight or fight response. Right? So increase heart rate, increase blood pressure, reaction time, etc. etc. And this is related to the adrenal glands.